By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what a short squeeze is and more importantly, how to profit off of them. Because of course, that's what we're here for, right? We want to know how we can find short squeezes and also how to trade short squeezes. And we have one example today. It was the only stock I traded for the past week almost that actually set up a good short squeeze pattern. I got long it and so far it's up over 100%. With no signs of stopping. And the amazing thing about short squeezes is they are super predictable when the chart sets up properly. That's the key part. So I'm going to teach you what to look for, how to identify if shorts are trapped, and then most importantly, how to actually plan a trade and take the risk on these trades. So with all that said, let's not waste any time and jump right into today's example on the stock called GV. So step number one in finding short squeezes is that you just have to find the stock that is first green day with news. So this means that the stock had no or very little trading activity in the days prior. Almost no one's focused on it. Has to be a low float or should be a low float. And then the morning of the trade, you're going to see the stock pop up off some news. The best way to do this is to have some scanners. I've just been using the free scan on TOS just to practice it because, I mean, it's free. Why not? If you want a paid scanner, there are some extra features available that can be useful to you. Use something like scans or trade ideas, something like that. But I've just been using the free TOS scanner. All you do is just you scan for percent change. You scan a certain volume criteria. I have 10 million shares. You scan for a certain market cap. I have minimum 1 mil, max 500 mil. And then you just have a price range. I have minimum $1. If you are on TOS, you have to remove the percent change in pre-market because it doesn't calculate percent change till market open. Just a quick tip. So you just scan in pre-market and just look through each stock. Now, you're going to find a lot of stocks that are trash, but you have to kind of cast a wide net to catch the ones that are promising. So I saw GV in the morning and I looked at it. I was like, oh, cool. Has an interesting spike. Let's check it out. And then I saw the news. Look at this headline here. Visionary obtains a financing consent letter from a $1 billion international consortium and goes all out to build blah, 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 right? The actual PR doesn't matter. The actual news doesn't really matter. One of the most important things that I have found in my 9 years of trading when it comes to PRs, especially for small cap stocks, is to have a big dollar figure. How much bigger can you get than 1 bill? I mean, that's a classic number, right? Looks amazing. And that's pretty much all that really matters. So the stock had a very strong PR. It's going to get a lot of eyeballs on it. And if it does continue, people are going to say, yeah, it makes sense. They have a really good news PR. So that's the first step. But once again, that's just the first step, right? So all we know now is, okay, we have a stock that is gapping up. It has good volume in pre-market and it has good news. But you can't just buy it yet because there's no plan. I mean, like, what are you going to do? You're going to buy at market open and just YOLO hold. I mean, sure, it might have worked in this case, but if you see my other videos about all day fades, stuff can have good news, but they can completely dump after market open. So you have to do a bit more research and do a bit more of a planning process. And so with my trading, the simplest way to explain it is that you have to wait for a trend to form. So you cannot just buy into a direct spike, but you need to wait until the spike stops, pulls back, makes support. You don't buy yet because you don't know where support's going to end, but then you wait for it to break out. And then you can use that previous resistance as new support. I know this is a very crude drawing, but it's legit as simple as this. And we're going to explain on this chart how this pattern developed on GV. So during my pre-market webinar and in my watch list, I was saying, yeah, this is a very interesting PR. It's a very strong stock. It has good range. But as of right now, there is no plan yet. We cannot make a plan. There's nowhere to plan previous resistance as new support. There's no max loss. There's no targets. We have to just sit back and wait for something to happen. And so the stock spiked up, had a nice big move into the 270s, pulled back down, held around the 220s. And during this time, I said, okay, let's get some extra context. One of the best things you can do is look at the bigger picture to see where are their levels from the previous history that people might take into account today. So you just go to the daily chart. Simple. Go to the daily chart, look at the recent price action, and the best thing you can do is just go to the line chart, go left and up, and just mark that previous resistance. You can see here, 250. There was a few days that kind of spiked up in this 240s, 250 area. Doesn't have to be exact, right? Just look at where that previous area is. And then for extra bonus points, say, hey, if it can get over 250s, where are the next levels that it's going to find resistance? Zoom out, go left and up. You can see that there is some level at 440s. See this yellow line I have? It's from the weekly chart. So same thing, weekly chart, zoom in, right? There's very clear levels. So there's 250, there's $4, there's 520s, 750s. Lots of clear levels and points that the stock can get to if it does continue. In the morning, it was still kind of, unclear what's going to happen. It had one big spike and then it started to stabilize. The one thing I noticed and the one thing I like to see is I like to see intraday price action line up with daily chart levels. So this one was a bit trickier because if you just followed my basic lessons and just used intraday levels only, then you might have marked off 270 as a key level. And then when it broke out 270, you might have seen this previous resistance, new support, and you would have bought there. But this was too preemptive. And I go into this a lot more in depth. We did like a 30-minute lesson today in my webinar. But basically, this wasn't a breakout yet. It didn't make new highs. And like I said, I like to see levels respect daily chart levels. So when I was talking in my chat room today, I said the key level to hold is 250. You can see from this morning, there was a lot of rejections at 250. And that's also where that daily chart level is. And you can just see from the price action, as it crossed back above 250 here, it did that classic little breakout and retest very quickly. That just kind of showed me that 250 is the key line. And then max loss is down at 220s, right? Simple level. And then just in case you don't believe me, here's a timestamp of me saying as long as GV holds 250, it's bullish. This was at 10:07 a.m. That's Pacific time. So 1 p.m. market time. And that was right after it did this breakout. Here's 10 a.m. my time, broke out. And I said, as long as 250 holds, it's bullish, meaning I'm planning a trade at 250. And I sent that message about 30 minutes before it actually retest. And I actually got filled. And so this to me was my short squeeze setup, because what's happening here is you have to kind of get into the head of short sellers and sellers in general. What they see is they see a stock that's up on some fluff news. I mean, they're like, oh, no way that this has $1 billion contract or whatever it was. And they're going to sell and short this thing because they want to have it do a big fade off and they want to cover down below 2 maybe. They're going to short into 250s, 260s, 270s, but it doesn't break down. So anyone that did short here is likely still holding their position. And then when it starts to break out, what are they going to do? They don't want to have that pain of being red, so they're going to buy back in. I talk about this concept in all of my videos where people that are going to short, if they get trapped, they're going to buy back in. So that's going to influence support. And then the ones that don't buy back in, if it squeezes, they get really screwed. So that to me was why 250 was super significant. So I made a plan to go long off 250s. My max loss was 220s. And then my first target, as I said from the daily chart, next resistance was all the way up in the 4s. Using the trade planner that we have at TradeBlue, you can see entry price 250s, max loss 220s, first target 392. If you have only a $5,000 account, that's an R value of 4.38. That is astronomically good. And this thing just plans to trade out for you. You can see that if you had a $5,000 account, you would take about 313 shares. Actually, no, this has to be more because you risk 4%. You would take 625 shares using only a fraction of your account. And then to make your 1R, $200, you only have to sell 143 shares at that first target. So then if it does go further, you still have over 500 shares left over just about, which is how you get that exponential account growth. And so from there, after I got into the position, it's just a matter of accepting the risk and letting the trade do its thing. The main rule is as long as previous resistance holds as new support, you stay in the trade. So you get long off those 250s and you just sit back and wait. The stock consolidated, did its thing. You can see it kind of wind back up, volume increases, takes its time, no big deal. and then all of a sudden it explodes. And look at what I said in my chat right before this squeeze. This was at 11:31 a.m. If we get good volume out of this area, next resistance is above $4. And that was at 11:31. That was as it was still consolidating in this 270 zone. And sure enough, where are we at now? It squeezed above $4, tapped exactly into that daily chart resistance, took a partial there, and now we're just chilling. So now, for me to remain in this trade, all I care about is as long as it holds previous resistance as new support down at 280s, I'm fine with it. So I'm going to hold my remainder overnight, and we'll see how this thing pans out. So a very quick lesson on the short squeeze. It's not the prettiest chart, but the short squeeze is there. It was predictable, it's repeatable, and it's always built off the same simple process. Find the first green day stock that has news and a strong catalyst. Wait for that trend to form. And then once it breaks over a key level, use that previous resistance as new support. So if you want to trade with me and my team, we trade every single day. I have a full course. I do webinars every single day. I make a watch list. Everything you need to become a better trader. There's a free 2-week trial down below. Click it, check it out, see for yourself. I'm sure you will not be disappointed. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.